Hello and welcome back to the Leicester Tigers Women's Fancast. I'm your host, Jacob, and I've done a sort of a special one-off episode today to look at something that has really intrigued me in this off-season, which is this sort of partnership, which I'm using in loose terms. I'm not sure if it's like an official agreement, but there's certainly something formulating between Rugby Australia and Leicester Tigers Women, and it's so interesting. So I'm going to go into it. So this is going to be like a podcast form, but I'm also going to do it as a visual format and as a Substack post. So keep your eye out for that. As ever, keep up your interactions on social media on Instagram, Blue Sky, and also Twitter. You can also email me ltwfancast@gmail.com. So, what is behind this Walleroo partnership with Leicester? In an intriguing climate of PWR off-season transfers, Tigers women are going to be considerably boosted by Australians for the 2026-27 season. Over a month ago, Rugby Australia officially announced a partnership with various PWR clubs, although Leicester Tigers seem to be the club that have considerably benefited so far. So, how is this partnership going to benefit Tigers next season? Will it turn the club's fortunes around? And what do Rugby Australia get out of this arrangement? So, what's in this for Leicester Tigers? Well, so far, Tigers women have signed Wallaroo internationals Tua Nakavadra and Caitlin Hulse, two mainstays of the Australia national side who are bordering on world class. They have also signed fly half slash inside centre Grace Freeman and winger Hallie Derrera from Super Rugby W side Western Force. The Rugby Australia statement said PWR clubs in plural, but so far Leicester is the beneficiary of this agreement. And looking to Australia is not a brand new Tigers from Tigers Women specifically. Last season, they signed lock forward Denny Ross from Queensland Reds, who was uncapped but was centrally contracted to Rugby Australia. And obviously, she left ahead of this current Super Rugby W campaign on a similar deal to what Tua Nakavadra is on as well. Now, Tigers also signed Samoan international Easter Savilio from the ACT Brumbies, but her season-ending injury meant not just a huge loss for Mamosina Samoa ahead of the 2025 Women's Rugby World Cup, but also meant that she did not go to Leicester and instead stayed in Australia to rehab. Tigers also signed three Irish players from the lower tiers Australian domestic rugby, and also finally one of Leicester's best additions to the team in last season was of course Wallaroo utility back Jemima McCalman, although of course she signed via Elite Unsign Blognac in France. In an era when domestic rugby is still largely semi-professional, word of mouth is still a big currency in women's rugby transfers. Now, you can argue this has gone against Tigers in terms of the high-profile departures from last year's off-season, where you saw the likes of Meg Jones, Amy Kane, Fran McGee, and Julia Amor-Kale all left the club. However, it might also be suggested that it's benefited Tigers in terms of developing connections in women's rugby union in Australia. Ahead of next season, Tigers have once again looked to Australia to bolster their squad in an attempt to become a considerably competitive side in the PWR. Tua Nakavadra is a Tigers traditional number 8 all over and will give the pack substantially more gain line next season. Caitlin House needs little introduction. A star for the Wallaroos in the last World Cup, she made her debut for her country at just 17 years old and will add considerable X factor for Tigers from fullback with power, pace, and a powerful boot as well. Meanwhile, Grace Freeman looks an able replacement for the departing Kristen Bitter at fly half two. Are these recruits enough to allow Tigers women to avoid another winless campaign and be more broadly competitive across the season? That is yet to be seen. With rumours of more signings to come and future talent to emerge from the University of Nottingham pipeline, Tigers still admittedly look light in firepower and in pure numbers in the front five. Regardless, a battle-hardened squad bolstered with Wallaroo Stardust could elevate Tigers women to a much higher level than what they were last season. Furthermore, If Tua Nakavadra and Hulse can become household names quickly, the Tigers' marketing department will also be hoping for a boost on the season tickets and attendance front to get more bums on seats at women's fixtures at Mattioli Woods Welford Road. Whilst not recognisable names to casual supporters who follow the Red Roses, they are quality players and give the chance for Tigers to make up for marketing misses when they did have Meg Jones and Amy Cockayne on their books. So, how does this arrangement benefit Rugby Australia? So, Rugby Australia's stated aim is, and I quote, with the home Rugby World Cup on the horizon, Rugby Australia is committed to exposing the Wallaroos to world class competition wherever possible. The opportunity to collaborate with PWR will allow a select group of Wallaroos to sharpen their skills during our off season, following a comprehensive 10 test programme and Super Rugby Women's season in 2026. Gaining experience in a competition like the PWR will be invaluable for the players' development as we build a Wallaroos programme with the goal of competing on the final weekend at the Rugby World Cup in 2029. We have seen a glimpse of how the Black Ferns have benefited from stints in the PWR this season just gone, which allowed their star players regular game time, not just against Red Roses, but also plenty of Canadians. A point of difference, perhaps, in their impressive victory over the Canucks in this year's Pacific Four. Rugby Australia are clearly wanting a similar impact to enable the growth of Super Rugby W, but also get the Wallaroos in a more competitive position come that World Cup in 2029. Realistically, until a possible amalgamation of Super Rugby W and Aupiki in the future, the domestic calendar is just far too short in the Antipodes, so sending players to the PWR on sabbaticals is a good short-term solution for both New Zealand Rugby and Rugby Australia. As this year's Pacific Four proved, Australia still has a long way to go, and whether this arrangement with Tigers and the PWR in general will allow the Wallaroos to be reaching the semi-finals come 2029 is tricky to say. Yes, Tigers will be better next season, but winning enough games to climb massively up the table and challenging playoff places still looks a way off. Whilst it might not be to the same extent as the season just gone, teams in the PWR may still use their fixtures against Tigers Women to rest and rotate players. So will Tua Nakavadra, House et al. Get enough game time against the core of the Red Roses squad is a question worth asking. Nevertheless, it's likely that they'll be returning from Leicestershire with plenty of game time under their belts, obviously injury permitting, and still with plenty of intel to benefit Rugby Australia. There is always a chance it also scores the union a propaganda victory of helping out an English club at the RFU's expense. This has been a quite frankly insane off-season in domestic women's rugby here in England, and this agreement between Rugby Australia and Leicester Tigers is one of many intriguing subplots happening in the PWR, whether that be the incoming of Red Roses to Sale, Gabrielle Vernier's sabbatical to Gloucester Hartpury, the exodus of Scottish and Welsh players back to their respective nations, Rosie Gallagher and Marley Packer leaving, Saracens for Quins, just so much more. This partnership between Tigers and Rugby Australia, as discussed above, carries big risks for both parties. Yet the long-term reward is clear for all to see, turning two sleeping giants of women's rugby into big-time powerhouses. So there we go. There is my little overview on this intriguing development that is happening with Leicester Tigers Women. As ever, stay tuned with us on social media. Keep in tune for more content as we go over the summer. It probably will kind of remain these sort of mini podcasts, mini audiovisual episodes and Instagram posts. Also, I've done a couple of memes lately with the departure of Emily Henrich and the signing of Caitlin Hulse. So there'll be more from that. Yeah, so keep an eye out for sort of those kind of social content that's going to be coming out shortly on the social media channels over the summer. Have a lovely rest of your day or evening or night if you're listening or hearing to this, and we'll see you soon on the Leicester Tigers Women's podcast.